I love dark rides. I genuinely think that along with roller coasters, these special rides share an equal part of the overall theme park experience, at least for me. Hence why I enjoy theme parks much more than your typical amusement park. Theme parks have these immersive dark rides, which place you into different worlds that you can't necessarily explore unless you're in said theme park. Nowadays, most dark rides in Florida incorporate some sort of movie IP tie-in, and well, I also love movies, so I think that definitely plays a big role in my enjoyment towards these attractions. Currently, Florida has two huge theme park resorts, those being the Walt Disney World Resort and the Universal Orlando Resort, both of which include countless world-class dark rides, and I'm lucky enough to have been on all of them. I know there are other parks in Florida that include dark rides, but either A, they are defunct and will never open again, or B, I haven't been to some of those parks in a long time, mainly Legoland Florida. Real quick, we gotta cover some ground rules for this ranking. I'm counting dark rides that are pretty much all indoor attractions, with a few minor exceptions within parts of a ride's layout, like Test Track or Skull Island Reign of Kong. The People Mover, for example, will not be on this list because the majority of the ride does take place outdoors. Plus, if the People Mover was on this list, it would rank number 1 immediately, come on now. Another thing I have to mention is that I will include simulator-style attractions like Star Tours or Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. Also keep in mind, my dark ride rankings change pretty much every time I come off of one of these attractions, so even the pictures shown in the thumbnail, those rankings will probably not be accurate at all by the time we get there in this video. One last thing before we start, I gotta make it clear I love roller coasters, so one key thing that I look for in dark rides that most people don't is the thrill factor. I like to physically feel something while being immersed inside of these otherworldly experiences, hence why you might find some of your favorite old classics either really low or not on the list at all. Alright, without any further ado, let's jump into the top 25 best dark rides in Florida. Quick honorable mention goes to Under the Sea: The Journey of the Little Mermaid. It's a 2012 Omnimover dark ride located in the New Fantasyland section of the Magic Kingdom. This is a really underrated attraction with quite possibly the best themed queue line in the park. For the ride itself, it's a slow-moving journey through the story of the Little Mermaid. It's always fun to catch a ride on this, especially when it's hot out. The animatronics are always working properly, except for that one day a few years back. And the ride is just well maintained in general. I love that cool effect at the beginning of the ride on the back of the other vehicle's clamshells when you dive under the water. It's very simple projection mapping, but it works. Overall, a quality attraction, and honestly some of Disney's finest work over the last decade. Really kicking us off with the list is Fast and Furious Supercharged at Universal Studios Florida. Many people hate this ride because it's just a really dumb attraction, and to be honest, I agree. That's why I love it. Once you watch the movies and appreciate the vibe that the actual franchise is going for, the ride fits in with the storyline of the movies so much more. The queue line for this attraction is also quite possibly the best in the whole resort, especially those pre-shows when you get good actors. And one last thing, if you sit on the edge seats of the party bus, you will get soaked. E.T. Adventure coming in hot at the 24th spot. This ride is the last remaining opening day attraction at Universal Studios Florida. It's a suspended dark ride where the storyline sort of acts as a sequel to the E.T. movie in a way, where you have to venture off to the green planet with E.T. so he can do his magic healing touchy thing. E.T. is definitely showing its age right now, but that's kind of the appeal of the ride. Since it's the last OG attraction in the entire park, it just kind of works. I do think the beginning of the ride, biking through the forest while the cops are chasing you, is far superior to when you're actually on the green planet. The forest scenes feel much more immersive, and they just really give that nostalgic vibe to the attraction we all expect when riding this masterpiece. Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin is located in Tomorrowland at the Magic Kingdom Park. It's an interactive shooting dark ride where you, the rider, are tasked with helping Buzz take down evil Emperor Zurg. This ride opened in 1998, so it is old in terms of dark ride speak. Just like E.T. Adventure, this ride shows its age, and it's not as forgivable this time. The only reason I have this over E.T. is because I am a massive sucker for interactive dark rides. I love video games, so these style of attractions are basically combining two of my favorite things, a cool movie tie-in with a physical video game. Space Ranger Spin is on the shorter side when talking about a typical dark ride's duration, but it's just so fun. Yeah, the guns don't always work, the targets can literally be a hit or miss, but it's so refreshing to ride a good old interactive shooter, and it's themed to Toy Story. I mean, it just can't get any better than that, right? Sticking with Omnimovers in the Magic Kingdom, we have the Haunted Mansion. I'm not gonna lie, I never grew up being the biggest fan of this attraction. Not that it was scary, more like kinda boring. But now that I'm older, I have really grown to appreciate this masterpiece of a dark ride. I know some of you guys have this in your top 10, heck, your top 5 even, but like I said earlier, when it comes to dark rides, I look for that thrill factor, and Haunted Mansion does not deliver there. For the ride itself, it excels in the vibe department, as I'm calling it. Besides maybe one other ride on this list that's very similar to this one, there's pretty much no other dark ride out there that masters just the atmospheric mood of the attraction. It feels spooky, and I mean, that's what Disney was going for, and they nailed it. We're approaching a new park here, Epcot. This park is currently a mess. Disney is pretty much reconstructing almost half the park's walking space, that being the former Future World area. One thing that hasn't changed yet is Spaceship Earth, the thing in the giant golf ball, as what most park guests refer to it as. Spaceship Earth is an engineering marvel. The whole ride is built in a 180-foot tall sphere. Like what? And this ride's long. It's like 15 minutes of actual ride duration. There's no other dark ride out there besides Living with the Land that I can confidently come off of and say I've actually learned something new every time. This ride is the future of public schooling, I'm calling it right now. Just one-upping Spaceship Earth is another ride located in the same park, this one being Soaring Around the World inside the Land Pavilion. This is the OG flying theater. Well, it was, before they changed it from flying around California to now flying around the world. I did like the California version better, it just felt more natural and chill, but Soaring Around the World is still a fantastic attraction. It's got quite possibly the best theme park score of all time, especially when you hit that scene with the massive waterfalls in Brazil. Let's head back on over to Universal Studios Florida for this next one. This time it's the Simpsons Ride, another simulator style attraction, whereas this one has the complete opposite tone of Soaring Around the World. Rather than flying around the natural landscapes throughout Earth, you're put in the middle of Springfield with your favorite cartoon family. This ride is one of those where you just turn your brain off for 5 minutes, accept your fate, and enjoy the ride. If you do that, you'll love this attraction. The Simpsons Ride is easily the most intense motion simulator I've ever been on, disregarding Mission Space, because that's just in a league of its own. Heading over to a new park on this list, Universal's Islands of Adventure. This park has a few notable dark rides, one being Skull Island Reign of Kong. This is, in my opinion, one of the best screen-based dark rides in the world. What I mean by that is the attraction heavily relies on screens for the majority of the ride's duration. Yeah, there's that cool outdoor bit at the start of the ride, but once you enter the show building, it's game on. Universal does what they do best: screens. The movement of the ride vehicles is pretty cool, the CGI is decent, and we can't forget that awesome Kong animatronic at the end, one of the best in Florida. Next up, heading back on over to Studios, we have Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. I have a severe love-hate relationship with this thing. Originally, I despised this attraction, solely based on the fact that it replaced one of my childhood favorites, Jimmy Neutron's Nicktoon Blast. However, over the years, I've moved past that and accepted what is in its place, that being an absolutely amazing simulator ride. I don't know what's up with Minion Mayhem, but the ride is just so wholesome. The ride's finale literally puts the biggest freaking smile on my face every single time. It's just such a good storyline. And right down the street from Minion Mayhem, it's time to race through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. Just like Minion Mayhem, this ride is just a good time. The queue line is one of the best at a Universal park, especially considering it uses a virtual line system allowing guests to play games, sing with the ragtime gals, and much more, while you wait for your group to be called into Studio 6B. This ride is another one of those where you gotta turn your brain off for 5-ish minutes to really appreciate the tone of the attraction. Next we have Star Tours at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Who doesn't love Star Tours? It's honestly the most re-rideable attraction anywhere in the world, solely based on the amount of different ride combinations you can get. 700 unique possible rides you can get on this thing. That's a lot. This is the classic simulator attraction in my opinion, and it delivers. The queue is one of Disney's best, and the general ride experience, especially with C-3PO as your new captain, it's just so wholesome and puts a huge smile on my face every time I disembark. Heading back on over to Epcot, we'll speed on over to Test Track, one of the most advanced dark rides ever created. Utilizing Disney's famous slot car style ride system, Test Track changed the precedent for dark rides going into the new millennium. This attraction combines an indoor slow and fast section taking you through several courses to test out your sim car, and ends with you speeding around the perimeter of the ride's show building at 65 miles per hour. Yes, the original version of this ride was better in almost every way, not including the new soundtrack. However, Test Track 2.0 still holds up to this day if you want a quick adrenaline rush at Epcot. Back at Universal Studios Florida, we have Escape from Gringotts. Yes, I'm putting it at number 13. I love this ride, just like I love every other ride on this entire list. But Gringotts, I feel like it's a tad bit overhyped. It's easily one of the most technologically advanced dark rides in the entire world. Therefore, every time I ride this, it blows me away that this ride just physically works. It's an Intamin launch coaster with Premier Rides trains, with dynamic attractions, special track elements including a tilt track, motion simulator bases, turntables, I mean the list just goes on and on. So on paper, this ride is a masterpiece, but unfortunately I just don't get the hype around it. Part of why it's at number 13 could also be because I haven't yet gotten invested into the Harry Potter franchise, but once I do, this ride will likely skyrocket up the list. At Disney's Hollywood Studios, there's Millennium Falcon's Smuggler's Run. This is quite possibly my favorite simulator attraction on this list. Not the best, I gotta make that clear, my favorite. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is one giant video game. I'm not joking when I say this, it literally uses Fortnite's graphics software to render the ride video in real time. Some people don't particularly like that gaming aspect of the attraction, but I really love it. Yeah, I grew up playing video games, so obviously there's some bias, but it's just so fun to catch a ride on the Falcon, whether you get the glorified pilot position, the underrated gunner position, or even engineer, because then you can just sit back and watch the chaos unfold right in front of you. This ride feels like a glorified Mario Party minigame, and I'm here for it. Back on over at Universal Studios, we have another interactive dark ride, this one being Men in Black Alien Attack. This is a great shooting dark ride. The theming is decent, the ride duration is pretty long, and the shooting mechanics are actually tolerable for the average park guest. In my opinion, Men in Black Alien Attack is the most re-rideable attraction in the entire Universal Orlando Resort, because you can always keep finding new secrets and hidden targets every time you ride. One-upping Men in Black, we have yet another interactive dark ride, Toy Story Mania, located at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I typically take physical set-based attractions over ones that just rely on screens, so this placement is a little out of the ordinary for me, especially one spot over Men in Black. The truth is, I think Toy Story Mania is some of Disney's best use of screens, no question. It's such a fun shooter, very re-rideable just like the others, and surprisingly the most tiring. The shooting mechanics on Toy Story Mania are more or less one of a kind, and I think that's a good thing, because Woody and his pals always tire me out when I get to the ride's finale, especially that minecart scene. Here's a new park for you guys that hasn't been on the list yet, Animal Kingdom. There's two dark rides here that are on this list, both have not been mentioned yet. At number 9 we have Avatar Flight of Passage. This is undeniably the world's greatest flying simulator, we all know that. Everything about this ride is pretty much perfect when it comes to screen-based only attractions. The queue line is Animal Kingdom's best, the ride vehicles are amazing, the visuals are breathtaking, the musical score that plays during the ride, the smells, I can go on and on and on. But let's move on to number 8. Remys Ratatouille Adventure at Epcot will be taking this spot. Not gonna lie, I was a bit disappointed after my first two rides on this attraction when I rode it back in September of last year. However, over time I've come to appreciate this masterpiece of a trackless dark ride. I know it was designed in the early 2010s, so it definitely does not hold up in comparison to Disney's more modern trackless dark rides, but it's still impressive nonetheless. The screens are pretty well done. The ride honestly felt like it belonged at Universal at some points. Also, I found myself looking up more at the screens than looking forward at them. Therefore, I'm saying it right now, this ride does a better job in making you feel small, like you've shrunk down to the size of a rat, than the entirety of Toy Story Land does, where its main goal is to transform you into a toy. The smells during this ride are amazing, whether that's baked bread, blueberry muffins, I don't know, it just smells really freaking good. I do have to mention though, I was severely disappointed by the queue line for this attraction. It felt very bare except in one notable room. Other than that, it's a really fun experience and you can't miss it the next time you go to Epcot. For this spot, we're going back on over to the Islands of Adventure. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey is widely regarded as the attraction that changed the theme park industry forever. And in a good way, obviously. The ride uses moving kuka arms that you would typically see in like construction warehouses or whatever, but mounted onto a track. It's so cool, and I really hope Universal does more with this ride system one day in the near future, looking at you, Epic Universe. Next up, going back to the Animal Kingdom, we have Dinosaur, one of the craziest, if not the craziest dark ride ever built in terms of intensity and just physical movement. Dinosaur is the one attraction on this list that puts the dark in dark ride. You can't see anything for about 75% of the overall ride experience, and it's amazing. I know that sounds a little weird, but the reason it's so cool is those ride vehicles. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but these vehicles are aggressive. You want an RMC roller coaster at Disney World? Here you go, moving on. Alright, the top 5 best dark rides in Florida, kicking us off with the Hollywood Tower of Terror at Disney's Hollywood Studios. While this is more of a drop tower per se, it does have significant dark ride segments throughout the ride's duration. The theming is top notch and really nails the atmosphere that the Imagineers were going for. The actual elevator portion of the attraction is just pure fun. The amount of airtime you get on this thing is unheard of for a Disney attraction. Sure, it feels like a quick ride, but the amount of thrill and theming that Tower of Terror packs into its 4 or 5 minute ride experience is undeniably awesome. Staying in Disney's Hollywood Studios, we come across the number 4 spot, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This is the most wholesome dark ride Disney has ever built. The ride's storyline is so random, the theming is top notch, the ride vehicles are some of the best in the game, and it's pretty long for a trackless dark ride. That ending scene where Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto are just chilling in the park, it just puts a big smile on my face. Runaway Railway is one of Disney's greatest attractions they've ever built in the past 20 years, if not more. Here's where we leave Hollywood Studios and this time head on over to Universal Studios for Transformers The Ride 3D. If there's one ride on this entire list that has grown on me the most over the years, it's Transformers. When you put this ride into perspective, this is one of Universal's best. It incorporates physical sets and screens, clever 3D effects, intense movement, along with quite possibly one of the longest ride durations for any Universal screen ride, if you even want to call it that. Plus, even when there are screens, they blend seamlessly with the physical sets around the edges. Transformers is a top-tier theme park attraction. It's super fun to ride. And just a little tip for you guys, the single rider line is pretty much always a walk-on. Just one-upping Transformers The Ride 3D, we have The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man at Islands of Adventure. For a ride that opened in 1999, there's no other theme park attraction out there that has aged the best besides Spider-Man. I'm telling you, if this ride opened today, fans would go wild. It is that good. The physical sets, screen quality, voice acting, queue line, ride vehicles, soundtrack, fire effects, water effects, smoke effects, the 4 Stan Lee cameos. The list goes on and on and on and on. However, there is one more dark ride in Florida that belongs on this list. The number 1 spot for the best dark ride in the state of Florida is of course Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. There's virtually nothing wrong with this attraction besides the physical operations with its virtual queue issues, standby, lightning lane stuff, that whole thing. But disregarding the outside of the attraction and how it physically runs, the actual ride is a masterpiece. Disney went crazy when designing this ride. Here, let me break it down for you. A trackless dark ride that includes elevators, drop tracks, simulator cabins, cutting-edge animatronics, insane special effects, massive physical sets, seamless looking screens, the best projection mapping out there. Oh, and there's also 3 pre-shows, one that could technically count for a ride of its own. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance is the best ride Disney has ever created, and one of, if not the best ride in the entire galaxy. There we go guys, the top 25 best dark rides in the state of Florida. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more just like this one, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys out on the horizon. The Theme Park Horizons.